أهلا وسهلا.
Mabuhay.
欢迎。
Bem-vindo.
Welcome to Accent, the first international show produced at the University of Kansas. I am Teemu Lähde.
And I am Jake Kotzman. In Sudan, a vicious power struggle has erupted between the country's military leadership. Violent clashes between the Sudan Armed Forces and the Rapid Support Forces have caused widespread fighting and civilian casualties. Governments around the world have called for the ceasefire to resolve the crisis, and many countries are now trying to get their citizens out of Sudan. On Tuesday, the World Health Organization warned of a huge biological risk after Sudanese fighters seized the National Public Health Laboratory, and a WHO representative in Sudan described the development as extremely dangerous because polio, measles, and cholera isolates exist in the lab.
Ukrainian President Zelensky spoke Wednesday with Chinese President Xi Jinping. It was the first phone call between the two leaders since the start of Russia's invasion in Ukraine. Beijing has not condemned Russia's invasion or called for Russia to withdraw its troops. China confirmed that an envoy would travel to Ukraine and other countries to help conduct, quote, in-depth communication with all parties for a political settlement of the Ukrainian crisis.
Bringing it back to Kansas, graduation is around the corner and thousands of students are getting ready to celebrate this achievement going down the hill at KU. But one student in particular has different challenges getting ready for the special day. Fernanda Silva joins us at the studio to tell the story.
Thank you. That's right, Thimu. Today we will be telling Tandare's story. Tandare is an international student from Botswana and has attended the University of Kansas since June 2019. In February this year, just a couple of months ago, he suffered an accident and is paralyzed from the waist down. But in a couple of weeks, together with many KU students, he will be celebrating his graduation. I spoke to him and to an amazing family that is supporting him on this process. It was a Saturday morning when Tandare's life changed.
I was sitting by my balcony and at the apartment that I used to live in. And then I slipped off the rail. I kind of leaned back and fell down from the third floor and had a spinal cord injury.
After being admitted to the hospital and undergoing surgery, Tandare, who was far from his family, reached out to his roommate's parents for assistance.
Tandare called early on a Saturday at 6 a.m. and he said that he had some broken bones, and then the doctor got on the phone and told me how serious it was.
What were the consequences of this accident that happened to you, like physically speaking, but also mentally speaking?
I lost control of my legs. I was paralyzed from the waist down, and even up to now, I still can't walk, but I'm starting to gain some movement in my legs and stuff like that. It's just hard trying to get used to a different kind of lifestyle now, but I think I've been doing quite well. I've been getting the support that I need, and I've been doing quite well. I've been keeping up with friends, and that's been helpful as well.
Tandare already had a strong connection with his roommate Alec and his parents Becky and Andy before the accident. During the pandemic, when Tandare was forced to move out of campus, he moved in with Alec's family. They spent the holidays and even traveled together.
Just being away from home can be difficult, but I have my roommate's parents around who have been very helpful and supportive. They've been there for me since I was admitted to hospital. They check up on me, and they've been helping me throughout the whole process. I've also been keeping in touch with my family through FaceTime and WhatsApp calls every day, so that does help make it less challenging. It just helps make it a little bit better.
After the accident, Tondere had to completely reorganize his life. He moved to a different apartment that was better suited for his wheelchair and began taking classes online. In addition, he now goes to Kansas City on a weekly basis for physical therapy. Despite these changes, he has yet to receive the medical bill for his treatment. Knowing that, Becky started a fundraising to support her son's best friend.
So we set up the GoFundMe for transportation needs. We did find a place in Lawrenceville. KU found a dorm for him to stay in that's ADA accessible, and that's been wonderful. And then he needed therapy up in Kansas City. So we're using money for transportation. Transportation from Lawrence to Kansas City is pretty expensive. And then also his medical expenses. And then he also, to help him get, when he graduates after May, to get him a place to stay.
I'd really like to thank them so much. They've been so helpful. I don't think I could ever thank them enough, and I appreciate all their support and everything that they have done for me so far. It's really helped me a lot, and it means a lot to me. It's just being away from home. They've really been like my parents over here, and I appreciate that so much.
Why did you decide to help him so much?
He's the sweetest and just the most deserving. So he's just part of our family, and why wouldn't we help him? We love Tondere, and we just want the best for him. And we really do appreciate everyone helping. He's very deserving of all the support.
Tondere continues his physical therapy treatment with the hope of as much of his legs movements as possible. If you want to support him, go to gofundme.com/helping-Tondere. Back to you.
Thank you, Fernanda.
Now let's send it to Ashton, who has the weather update. Ashton, it's still a couple weeks away, but can we expect a sunny day for graduation?
Hello, KU. I'm Ashton Rizzo here with our international weather. So if we look here, we have views of some heat wave that's moving into Spain and Portugal area. So those temperatures are getting up into the lower and upper 90s in some areas in Spain right now. And if we look at some weather that's heading to lower and central parts of Texas, as you can see, we're in an enhanced risk for the southeast part of Texas, and then moving into the central part of Texas, we're staying at a pretty slight risk, and this will be for tomorrow's weather look. And then also, if you just look over into Florida, we also have a marginal risk for some severe weather heading out that way tomorrow afternoon. And if we take a look at Kansas and the southern part of Kansas, just recently in the last 72 hours, they accumulated almost 3 inches of rain, which was very well needed in that area, considering for about the last 2 years, they've been in a pretty bad drought for the last 2 years. So that rain was so much appreciated in that area. If we take a look at tonight's forecast, staying here locally in Lawrence, temperatures are going to drop into the 40s, and it's going to be mostly cloudy. We don't have any rain chance here locally yet, but moving in tomorrow afternoon, there will be some rain chances. So we'll start off in the 40s, jump into the 60s by noon. By the afternoon, we're going to need those umbrellas and raincoats because the rain's moving in pretty quickly. If you're heading out to the NFL draft tonight in Kansas City, though, you will be good for tonight, just cloudy chances. The rain's not moving in until tomorrow, 50% showers. It still will be in the 60s, though, and then Saturday for the last day of the draft, it'll be pretty nice, upper 60s there and just breezy. Our 7-day forecast here, we have Thursday, cloudy with slight chances of showers. Friday, we have 40% chances of showers. And then after that, for the rest of the following 7 days, will just be pretty clear skies. Even into mid next week, we'll have temperatures into this upper 70s in some areas. Thank you for tuning in here on Accent.
And after the break, a volcano erupted in Mexico.
And over 100 bodies found in investigation into quote starvation cult in Kenya.
We will be right back. Welcome back to Accent.
It's hard to believe, but slavery is still a problem, not only in other countries, but also here in the United States.
Leonardo Sakamoto is a journalist who created an NGO dedicated to monitoring and combating forced labor in Brazil with investigative journalism. Reporter Fernanda Silva talked to him to learn how we can help fight modern slavery.
Thank you so much, guys. Leonardo, thank you for joining us today. It's a great honor to have you here.
Thank you for the invitation.
Leonardo, when we think of slavery, I think of history books, I think of the concepts that I learned at school, but we still have modern slavery happening. In Brazil, slavery was abolished only 135 years ago. It was the last country in the Americas to abolish slavery. How is it different, the slavery that we have now versus the slavery that we know of in history books?
You are right. Unfortunately, slavery should be just inside the history books, but unfortunately there are a lot of people that want to take out this historical thing to our days. Well, there is a difference between the historical slavery in the colonial times in Brazil than the slavery for today. First of all, the Brazilian state considered it illegal today that someone could be the owner of someone else. This didn't happen 130 years ago when the Brazilian Empire considered legal you have other person. And then there is the biggest difference. But there are other differences. For example, today, it's not necessary to bring someone trafficked by Africa or other place and obliged to work in Brazil. You take one of millions of unemployment people that are in the country, living in the vulnerable places, and you traffic this person to slavery. And other example that in the past you need to pay something equal to thousands of dollars to buy someone else because this person was brought from other continent. Today it's not necessary. You just give some payment to the person to bring them to work with you and to be trapped on slavery. What we see as the slavery today in Brazil, in fact, is a kind of heritage, of a kind of consequence of an abolition, a slavery abolition in 1888 that was not complete. The Afro-American and the Africans that were brought to Brazil, forced brought to Brazil, they didn't receive any compensation because they were enslaved. Who received the compensation in Brazil were the slaveholders. Not the slaves. And then, with no compensation, with no land to plant, and with no house, with nothing, they start their lives with nothing, just with a lot of prejudice, because Brazil, as United States, as different countries, are so racist. And this racism plus the situation that it didn't allow to these former enslaved people to start their lives with minimum support, make that their descendants until today live in bad conditions.
And why is journalism important in this scenario to help fighting modern slavery, human trafficking?
When at the beginning the government started to release workers in 1995, the press make possible to everybody know what's going on. And what this means is not, it means that workers that were in other farm listen on a radio, say, wow, but the situation of this guy is the same situation of me. Or a domestic worker seeing a television, wow, but the situation of this woman is the same situation of me. And because the media broadcasting this information about slave labor, about the release operations, more workers start to see themselves as enslavement people and start to go and make denounces and start to run away from farms. And at the same time, the media has a very important role on this to ask for the government to implement effective measures to fight slavery and not just things to that can help in to promote the name of the government, but there is few effectiveness. Slavery is not something just in Brazil or just in the periphery of the world. We have slavery here in the United States, in tomato crops, in corn crops, in domestic work, and denouncing is very important. If you see any sign of slavery, go to the authorities, go to the police and make a denounce.
Thank you so much for joining us. It was a great interview. I feel like we could be talking here for hours. Thank you.
Thank you for the invitation.
Back to you guys at the desk.
Thank you, Fernanda. If you want to learn more about Sakamoto's work, go to his NGO website at reporterbrasil.org.br, Brazil spelled with an S.
A volcano erupted in the state of Mexico this past Friday, emitting smoke reaching over 1.6 kilometers in height. The explosion occurred at 11:58 a.m., issuing a yellow advisory for an expensive area. The eruptions have risen significantly in 2022, and the volcano has erupted 113 times. So far this year, there have been 308 eruptions. The volcano has tremendous significance in Mexico and can even be visible from Mexico City on some days. Government officials will continue to monitor this volcano.
Police in Kenya have found over 100 bodies from premises of what appears to be a starvation cult in the village of Shakahola. The bodies that were buried in a mass grave in the forest are believed to be connected to a case where the leader of a church named Good News International has been claimed to have told his followers to starve themselves to death to meet Jesus. According to a Kenyan media called Nation, one woman who was, unquote, at the brink of death has been saved from the scene. The Kenya Red Cross says it has had reports of more than 200 people missing from one town.
Sony is a Japanese multinational corporation headquartered in Tokyo, Japan, and its net worth is over $100 billion. Sony is the manufacturer of the PlayStation game systems, and over 100 million units have been sold worldwide. Currently, there is a huge demand for the PlayStation 5 console, due in part to the technologically advanced virtual reality experience it can deliver with the compatible headset, the PSVR 2. So let's check out why VR is so popular. According to Dictionary.com, virtual reality, also known as VR, is a realistic and immersive computer simulation of a three-dimensional environment. English scientist Charles Wheatstone made an amazing discovery that each eye sees a different two-dimensional image, which the brain then processes as one three-dimensional image. Using this discovery, he invented the stereoscope in 1838. This invention from 183 years ago is used in the same way VR works today, except instead of two photographs next to each other, it's two computer screens. The stereoscope led to Viewmasters. In 1950, the Sensorama was invented by Morton Hellig. It showed 3D images with a vibrating chair, stereo speakers, and smell fans, and evolved into the first interactive VR headset with 3D images and stereo sound. In 1969, Myron Kruger invented a system he called artificial reality with video recognition techniques that allowed computer-generated environments that people could interact with. This led to the invention of the Nintendo Wii and Xbox Kinect. Jaron Lanier launched the first VR head-mounted display for sale to the public in 1987 for a whopping $49,000 and VR gloves for $9,000. Over the years, many different companies dipped their toes into the water, with the Nintendo Virtual Boy in 1995 and the Sega VR headset in arcades in 1996. Today, the market for virtual reality headsets is huge. Many corporations like Microsoft, Sony, HP, Samsung, HTC, and Apple see potential and demand for VR. Recently, Facebook bought Oculus for over $2 billion. The demand and popularity means VR is becoming more affordable and innovation is improving the technology, so newer models are now wireless. But is VR really worth all the hype? Does it feel real? Why don't you ask one of these people?
Oh, he's actually coming.
That's your friend.
Who was that?
Ha ha ha!
VR is not just used to play games, it can be applied to many different causes in society. VR is used to prepare prisoners for release to re-assimilate them to life situations they may face. With apps like Live Like VR, you can experience sports games and concerts from the comfort of your home. Architects use VR to design spaces and buildings. It's used to create tours of properties and vacation options to sell real estate and promote tourism destinations. Doctors practice operations and procedures in VR before they ever touch a real patient. Kids in Japan have VR classrooms to make education an interactive experience. At NASA, VR is used to train astronauts how to control robotic arms and a rover which will be on Mars. They also use VR treadmills with a headset on to practice walking on other planets. Museums around the world have been recorded with 360 cameras allowing every inch to be viewed and explored with a VR headset. Ford Motor Company uses virtual reality to make and share designs remotely with a program called Gravity Sketch. VR has been used in courtrooms to recreate crime scenes to give a much better idea of events rather than just pictures. It's also used to train soldiers before they go overseas to war by placing them in virtual conditions similar to war zones. A study by the American Journal of Psychiatry in 2014 wrote that VR therapy alone was just as successful as drugs combined with VR therapy for veterans suffering from PTSD. The Oasis is closer than ever before, and I truly believe it won't be long before it's used commonly in training, education, sales, vacations, and entertainment. One day, owning a VR headset will be as normal as owning a cell phone.
We'll be back after the break.
Are you stuck in the cycle of seasonal depression? Have you been staying inside, doing homework, and watching the same old shows that you were watching all winter? Well, I have some great news for you. Spring has sprung, and it's waiting for you. Take a break from the never-ending work that is always looming, and enjoy the perfect weather and vitamin D that this spring has brought us. Come on outside, take a break, enjoy the weather.
Welcome back.
A Spanish court has ruled that a company was wrong to fire an electrician who may have drunk more than 3 liters of beer in one workday. The man, who had been working for the company for 27 years, was fired in September 2021 after a private detective hired by his employers followed him and his company van over the course of a few days that July. According to his letter of dismissal, he once drank 4 cans of beer and a 1-liter bottle of beer at lunch. The High Court in the southeastern region of Murcia found that the firm had not proven the man was not drunk at work. The court also noted that the firm had not considered that the hot summer in the area may have contributed to the man's drinking.
A movie theater in the town of Kenai, Alaska hosted a special visitor for the movies on the week's Wednesday at about 8 p.m. When a young moose walked into their lobby, surveillance video shows that the antlered animal first looked around cautiously and then moved to a side table to munch on popcorn. To the cinema employees' amusement. After snacking for about 5 minutes, the moose excitedly calmly out of the same door it entered the theater.
So yeah, here you can see the moose just going around minding its own business.
I think he's trying to check his ATM card. He's a little...
maybe moose have changed to plastic money.
Is anyone going to bring him his drink?
I don't know.
He was looking for something. I hope he got what he wanted. So this has been the last show of Accent, and it's been really crazy to go from making videos on my own on a little laptop in my room to being able to work in a giant studio like this with such great equipment. It feels like such a privilege to be here, but the bigger privilege was getting to work with all of these amazing people, and there's just so much work that goes on behind the scenes, and I feel super lucky to have been a part of it.
I'm so grateful to be on the beloved American cable news. I'm a Finnish person, When I was a little boy, I wouldn't have dreamed of something like this. So it's sad that Accent's coming to an end, at least this season. But we'll wish everyone good luck to their future endeavors. And hope that you wish us to back.
Absolutely. It's been amazing. Thank you for watching.
Paalam.
السلامة.
Ciao.
再见。
Ciao.